Hello everyone, welcome to MediaNama. There's a fear that artificial intelligence can lead to unemployment in the media industry and that fake news and disinformation can overwhelm the society. Today we have with us Nikhil Pahwa, founder and editor of MediaNama, who's going to talk to us about the impact of artificial intelligence on the news industry. So Nikhil, will journalists lose jobs because of artificial intelligence?
Thanks, Aswati. So, this is something we've been thinking about. I was at a media conference organized by the Foundation of Media Professionals as well. And this was one of the most compelling questions that they asked. My thing is that I don't think artificial intelligence can replace reporting. So, knowing what facts to collect, collecting the facts as they happen, um, you can't use it. There can't be artificial intelligence that goes and does on-ground reporting and gets information that is not in existence until it gets reported. So those are the jobs that artificial intelligence cannot touch. Whereas rehashing PR copy, just publishing press releases, a lot of those like rewriting agency copy, um, some of those jobs are going to be easily either taken away or it'll become far more efficient, right? Even opinion pieces can be written by artificial intelligence. You can train it to take a particular point of view and speak from that perspective. So AI generated opinions will keep getting better and better and smarter as more and more data on opinion pieces gets collected. Infographics can be generated automatically, but they'll need some tweaking. uh, Data, gleaning data from sheets, that's going to be easy. What is going to be very, very difficult is actually figuring out what a reader would want. But even with time, that personalization for readers will also probably can get added to the content that's being published. I think also in an era of misinformation and disinformation, and the fact that there's going to be AI generated copies that will have to be checked, the desk will become far more important for news organizations. They will need, because AI quite often generates incorrect facts. You have journalists who rely on AI that can actually be reporting incorrect or false context that has been generated by artificial intelligence. So the desks will have to be much, much better at what they do. So for better desk editors, there will be more difficult jobs. Uh, and the best desk editors will be in great demand because there'll be a lot to check and fact check all the time. So I don't see media industry jobs being impacted as much as people sort of expect them to. Yes, there will be more content out there. There will be more inventory. There'll be more information in the public domain that media will have to fight for. But you can't replace an on-ground journalist. You can't replace a journalist who's obsessive about a beat and knows every little thing there is to think about, thinks about it all the time. And you can't replace a journalist who's obsessive about getting every tiny detail in a story and find something that might be great for readers to learn about. So, it just means that better people will do better, and those who are not will find it challenging.
So in what ways can newsrooms use artificial intelligence in their daily operations and sort of address the challenges that you've mentioned?
So the way I look at it is that newsrooms have to now start learning about artificial intelligence, spending time using AI. If journalists spend an hour a day using some of these tools, like, DALI or ChatGPT, Bard, and then maybe with a little bit of programming, if they want to, if they can, um, maybe create, for their own, on their own devices, use, for example, Facebook's Llama setup. I've heard some people have started doing that to just pass through information that they have. It just helps them learn things better. But newsrooms can use, for example, a generation of multiple headlines for a particular story. Gives you more options to play with. If you want to change the headline frequently, you can generate 4 or 5 different options and change the headline depending on the audience set that you're looking to target. Grammar checks can be much faster and better. Transcription, which is something that most journalists hate doing, is easy. We've been using a transcription software at MediaNama for like about 2 years now, and everyone loves that. even though it's not perfect, but it has got better over the years, and it will progressively get better. I think text to video is something that we started using a few months ago. So essentially generating explainers and more readable work directly from articles, or finding a new angle and generating a video on that specific angle as shorter, snackable content for social media platforms. Image generation, obviously, there are, well, you might use out of copyright or Creative Commons images. You can also now generate images, although the who owns the copyright over generated images is still questionable. You can use it for, maybe improving the SEO of your text of a story, or giving recommendations on how that story ought to be. We've been also using it for, let's say, preparing event agendas, like generate 3-4 event agendas for an event that we're planning, and then pick out what we like from each of those options to create our own agenda. So it can't generate exactly what we want, but it acts as an assistant. If I'm interviewing someone, for example, I could even use it to generate questions about what I should ask that person, and it'll give me options that maybe I didn't think of. So it's a tool, right? If I want to write a summary of an article, or create like a 1-line or 2-line sort of lead into that article, I can use AI to generate that as well. So a lot of those tasks which would otherwise, just bear down heavily on you, especially transcription, they're just becoming much, much more easier because of the usage of AI.
So it's more about using AI as a tool, which like certainly cannot replace human input and a journalist input. I would
Yeah,
like to know about. Yeah, sorry, go on.
no, go on.
I would like to know about what kind of opportunities and challenges does AI pose for media businesses
So if you think
currently?
about it, like straight away greater efficiency, right? So, for example, you could basically publish more stories in a day, because a lot of those tasks that would take much more time will now most likely take less time. So let's say if you have to add 200 words of context in a story, or 300 words of context in, let's say, a 600 or 800 word story, that context will be easier to generate using AI. Of course, you'll have to fact check it, and the desk will be involved. But for a smaller team, it allows them to punch much above their weight, in terms of the fact that they don't need to rely heavily on creation of infographics, on transcription, on generating video, on editing video, because these tools will make those activities much, much easier and faster. And other opportunities are, for example, let's say you have to take a really heavy document that you need to report on, right? Generating a summary of that document over a period of time will become better. So maybe it'll be completely useless right now, but maybe 2 or 3 years down the line, as it becomes better, it'll generate better summaries that you can actually use and edit a little bit and publish. Transcribing is already there. It's not perfect, but publishing transcripts is something that could become a revenue model. So, summaries, transcripts, maybe an AI chatbot for your news publication. Let's say if in case of MediaNama, we've got like 35,000 articles going back to 2017 on the evolution of digital in India. Sometimes even we don't remember the articles that we published, right? And I've seen pretty much every one of those articles, but I don't remember them. And quite often it's like whimsical. Like I remember an article that during a conversation that I mention it, and no one's even heard of it, because no one's seen that history, right? Imagine something like Indian Express with decades of history. So to be able to pass that data and cull out stories and information and recommendations through a chatbot, that's a premium service that someone could actually pay for. One major thing that I'm really excited about, and I think if we are a few years away from that, is actually transcription. So, like if you're running a publication in English, it will become much easier for you to, let's say, once you publish an article, for the same article to be available in Indian languages, and languages that you perhaps weren't even considering right now. So if you take Assamese or Bodo or, like languages which otherwise translation is difficult for, that translation is going to get better and better with time. It's going to get more and more available. We have a problem in India where we don't have enough large language data sets in India for Indian languages. Even ChatGPT, what I'm told and is that the cost for using tokens for Indian languages is substantially higher. Like you might need 2 tokens for Hindi, whereas you'll need only 1 for English. So it's double the cost. In some Indian languages, it might take 10 tokens or even 20 tokens is what I've heard, right? So as more and more Indian language content proliferates and is available to generative AI, its usage will become more widespread and you'll be able to translate and create for Indian languages much more easily. So that's a huge opportunity for the space. I could convert my entire website into multiple languages at some point in time and become more accessible to language users. And so the cost of doing this is also going to progressively go down, and that will be an inflection point in terms of availability of Indic language content for this country. So I think that will be great.
In terms of challenges, we're seeing that there's a fear that misinformation and disinformation will overwhelm the world. So how can the media industry do something about it to address these challenges?
Yeah, that's a tricky one because the thing is that the ease with which we can create content is the same ease with which people can create disinformation and misinformation. Deep fakes right now are at times not very reliable. But and there's something called the uncanny valley, which is the gap between a human and an AI generated video or image or behavior. So that allows you to determine whether something's real or not. That is going to get breached at some point in time. In some cases, it already has. You never know. Images is much easier, but video is not. So when that uncanny valley in terms of either audio or video, and I'm reminded of a company that I saw recently that basically, ran like all the monkey baths that the Prime Minister has done so far through a language model and learned his diction, his voice modulation, and then they created audio greetings in multiple Indian languages, I think on Diwali or something, right? So spoke Punjabi, Telugu, Tamil. And so, now think of the same thing being misused, along with facial movements and the way lips move, etc. when we speak. So the scale at which disinformation can be generated is massive. The ease with which it can be generated is massive. And so therefore people won't know what to believe and what not to believe. And the thing is that we are heading into an environment of distrust. So how do you build something in an environment where you can't trust anything? What do you and so every piece of content that we receive, we'll find it difficult to trust. So there are 2 things over here. One, I remember Sam Altman when he was in Delhi, he talked about the fact that there will be watermarking on images and videos in order to determine whether something is AI generated or not. The challenge with that is that just like it's someone can put a watermark in an AI generated image, you also have tools for removing watermarks. So I'm not sure whether that's an effective solution. What's going to happen in the media industry there is that journalists will become more important, people will become more important, publications will become more important, desks will become more important. Yes, they will be overwhelmed with fact checking because of the amount of disinformation out there, but eventually people will know who they can trust, and so the burden on them to be more trustworthy is going to be greater. But that's also an opportunity for the media business to remain relevant in this environment where anyone can create any content. I'm reminded of a situation when CNN had launched its iReport. I think it was in 2008, 9, 10. I don't really remember the exact year. They had something called iReport in which users could submit their own news items, and then CNN journalists would verify those. And at that point in time, Steve Jobs is still alive. but someone submitted a CNN I report that Steve Jobs had died. It didn't go on TV, it was just on the website. And the Apple stock price plummeted at that point in time. So, half of it is about what are the stories that people believe. And so that's the problem with disinformation. You can manipulate stock prices, you can manipulate perceptions of governments. And we've already seen a lot of manipulation with misinformation and disinformation happening. So it's going to be a very, very tricky environment. And like I said, we are, as media people, in the business of trust. People, for our survival, it's essential that people trust us and come to us for facts and information and reporting. So it's on us to remain trustworthy so that people can continue to come to us when they need to believe something. And it's likely that because this level of disinformation, they won't believe anything else. So that's kind of, I think, with we're going to see as more and more elections draw closer about what kind of disinformation we see, and what kind of usage of AI we see. But I have no doubt that in India's 2024 elections, we will see the usage of AI, and we will see the usage of deep fakes, perhaps for campaigning. Like a politician could use it for, talking to an audience in their local language that politician maybe can't speak. Like, for example, the Prime Minister could speak Tamil in Chennai. Imagine a few years from now, there could be like live translation and text to voice happening at the same time. That's the level it'll be at. That it'll be what I think in science fiction is called a Babel fish, where it translates multiple languages into multiple languages, right? So instead of having someone who's sitting there and speaking, you'll have AI doing that. So we're heading into a fascinating era, I think. You can choose to be excited about it, or you can choose to be afraid of it. My recommendation is we need to start playing with AI, and seeing how we can use it so that we're not afraid of it.
Thank you so much, Nikhil, for your insightful views. This is really an important conversation to have, especially in view of elections. For our readers, do check out our daily coverage on artificial intelligence on the website. You'll have the link below. Thank you so much for joining us.